Sons of God. When I think of being, thank you, first of all, Isaac, for sharing that, and also for sharing some of the experiences that you have. It just, we can feel your heart. There's a reason you guys are doing what you're doing. God's really, truly graced you for that. Peace, you see the sons of God. You know, I think of our kids and how they have characteristics of us as parents. And I think peacemaker, it's just like, yeah, sons of God. We should be peacemakers because it's like, oh yeah, they're God's kids.
That's it. We are to resemble our Father. And
yeah,
God has intentionally, obviously, as we can see in the scripture, in the life of Jesus, made peace with us through his Son. And so we are to reflect that. But it's difficult, though. It's hard. I think it's an extremely difficult thing because it includes humility. It includes us ultimately fighting sin, which is selfishness, hatred, greed, pride, those things that causes conflict and destructive habits. We have to fight that in order to be able to stand for peace, which is like extremely difficult to be a peacemaker. But in the power of the Holy Spirit,
yeah, I think
can.
That point that he made today, it is actually, it's not only hard, we can try really hard to be peacemakers, but it's impossible without the supernatural power of the Holy Spirit who has transformed us.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the message last week when you, Pastor Dave, shared that illustration, which is an old illustration, but where there's the cup of coffee and you displace it with clear water. And that clear water is really the washing of the Word. As we grow in our relationship with God, things become displaced here. Everything becomes new in our heart when we're born again.
Yeah.
God's Spirit now resides in us. But it takes a while for our thought process. And thinking of this guy, this gangster, you know, he was recreated, but I'm sure his mind wasn't recreated overnight. There's things that you just have to, I have to change the way I think. I'm now a peacemaker, and I can't react the way I used to react. I have to change. There was a guy a number of years ago that came to the church actually prior to us being in the downtown building that we are in now, that we purchased 20 years ago today, which was such a miracle. But prior to that, we were in a hotel, and he came to the hotel. I have no idea how he found the hotel, but he was just very similar to, just like, I'm hungry, I don't have peace. And we didn't know at that time that he was the young leader of the up-and-coming supposed Communist Party for Canada at that time. And anyway, he gave his heart to Jesus, had a glorious baptism, but it was the renewing of his mind that he really spent time on. I choose to be a peacemaker. I'm not choosing to think like I used to think. And he was able to do that because of how he now saw things as a son of God.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
We
how
get
God
new
changes
eyes,
that.
new eyes to see.
Yeah.
And and I think again, reconciliation, as he mentioned, it's focused on restoring broken relationships. So we have to think about what relationships in our lives are possibly broken that we could help restore. And again, Paul talks about this idea, as much as it's up to you, we are to be at peace with everyone. Sometimes you've tried everything and you can't take it any further. It's up to the other person to initiate. But it is about restoring broken relationship. I think a lot of it has to do with prayer, as Jesus talks about, again, praying for our enemies in the same chapter as he goes through on the Sermon on the Mount. He talks about that. So part of the practical aspect of how can I be a peacemaker is to pray for your enemies, is to forgive your enemies, is to love your enemies, is to greet not only your own people, but people that possibly have offended you at church. And maybe you attend a different service because you're like, they're going to be at the 9 o'clock one.
Oh, so. Now you're just messing with people.
Woo! Yeah. I'm messing with you now.
Yeah, you are. Now you're just getting the
nitty-gritty. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I know what you're saying. We've prayed with those people.
There we go.
Yeah, it's true. There is, and as far as possible. And again, going back to being a peacemaker, you make bread. I'm not sure if on a regular basis.
I used to a lot more during COVID, as most people here did probably.
A lot more
sourdough.
Bought a lot more flour in those days. I think in that in making bread, you know, you try to do the recipe, change it. Did it always work out wonderfully? Are you one of those people that always made it like perfectly every time?
It came out pretty good, but there's always times where you're
you
like...
just wrecked my illustration
No.
completely. You were supposed to say, no, sometimes it didn't quite work out.
No, sometimes it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
See that, that really helped, as long as you're being truthful. Yeah. Okay, well, I'll use my bread. Actually, the first...
You made it in a bread maker?
The first time I made bread, because Dave's mom just was like this avid bread maker, and he loved homemade bread. I was like, I'm married, I'm going to make homemade bread too. So I used her recipe, and it was a Saturday afternoon, and I put the loaves in the everything looked really great. Put them in the oven, and that Saturday afternoon. Okay, am I a baker at that time? No. We decided to go to a matinee theater, go to the movies in the afternoon. I completely forgot that I had put bread in the oven.
Oh no.
It's almost the end of the movie while we're in the theater, which is about 15 minutes away, and it's like, Dave. I didn't take the bread out of the oven. There is bread in that oven. We raced home so quickly. It's like, God, please let there just be a place that's not on fire when we get home. Let it just be there. And what we didn't realize is that the oven didn't work.
See, it was the answer to prayer.
Yeah.
God already knew.
But I think the idea is you keep trying, you keep working at it, because a peacemaker, and I think it goes for us as peacemakers, that verse is so good, because as far as possible, we don't stop because it didn't work out the way we thought it would work out. We continue to be peacemakers.
Yeah, and I do agree that we can become better.
Yeah, because we learn from maybe some of the ways that we interacted trying to make peace. Yeah. But the bottom line is that's in our spiritual DNA, and God gives us the opportunity.
Yeah, we don't give up on peacemaking.
Yeah,
that's right.
Hopefully that helped you guys. Thanks for staying with us. God bless
Love you guys.